I hope you're all as excited as I am because it is League Two playoff week and we've got a brilliant preview for you coming up today, something a little bit different than you're used to on the channel. I like League Two, but not as much as Edward Walker from the D3D4Football podcast. His knowledge is incredible and I've got him involved to go through the fixtures and predict a winner. And it's not just him who's joining me today. I've got fans from all four teams to send in what they think of their chances and who are the key players to look out for. So starting off with this Zoom call from Ed, let's dive into the video. I'm delighted today to be joined by Edward Walker of the D3D4Football podcast. Edward, how are you doing today?
I'm not bad, mate. How about yourself?
Yes, very well, thank you. Excited for these playoffs?
Absolutely.
Cannot wait to get back into some League Two football. So we've got a bit of a different setup today. It's not going to be just me and Edward discussing the playoffs. We've got four fans of the playoff teams to send in their clips, and we're going to start off by hearing from Colchester fan Liam. Let's see what Liam's got to say.
League Two playoffs start this week. I'm here to talk about Colchester United's chance in the upcoming games against Exeter City and hopefully in the finals shortly after that as well. John McGrill, he's in his fourth season now after two very, very close seasons back in 2017 and 2019 where we missed out on the last game of the season. Finally, we make it into a playoff game, our first one as a club in over 20 years as well. So it's a very exciting time. I really hope we can do the business. I think we'll probably line up in a 4-2-3-1. That's been the preferred formation all season, whether that be three in midfield or somebody goes slightly further forward, likely to be Ben Stevenson. For the guys leaving, it would be a fantastic send-off as well to get through to the final and hopefully get promotion as well. We've had a bit of publicity for how we've been doing with those players, so the likes of Ryan Jackson, Luke Prosser, Frank Nouble and Brandon Comley all announced they're leaving at the end of the season, but all have shown a massive devotion to the club. Unfortunately, I don't think Comley's going to be involved in the squad, but the other three certainly will be, and they'll be really important if we are to get promotion. My predictions, I think it will be a tough game against Exeter. The two games we've had so far this season have been very close, both ended in draws. I'd argue that we had the upper hand in both of them, particularly the first fixture where we were leading until Tom Lapsley got sent off and conceded a penalty. How the break has gone is yet to see. It will be interesting to see how us and the other three teams as well have coped with that 3 months without football. I think we've got a good chance, especially given the cup run we've had this season as well. Enjoy the playoffs.
We certainly will enjoy those playoffs, Liam. Can't wait for them. And Ed, how do you think, those released players, especially captain Luke Prosser, will they be able to galvanise this Colchester team?
I fully believe they'll be able to galvanise his team, particularly Prosser, who alongside Tom Eastman has probably been one of the best centre-back partnerships in the league. There's been a lot of clubs that have rotated between a back three and a back four this season. But in terms of having two centre-backs, I'd argue they're the best in the division. Eastman and Prosser, they've been fantastic, particularly that they've allowed the full-backs in Cohen Brown and Ryan Jackson to get forwards, and you have that assurance from them two and Dean Gerken in goal that they're going to be such reliable presence that they can allow them to do that.
It's a very good-looking defence, isn't it? But there's also a lot of exciting players in this Colchester team. John McGrill's 4-2-3-1 system. What kind of exciting players should we be looking out for in this game?
Well, there's another one of the players who's set to be released in Frank Nouble, who is such a competent player. He doesn't really particularly think of your typical winger, quite a big lad, but good technically with the ball at his feet, likes driving at the opponents, really good on that side. You've also got Callum Harriott, who's operated on either flank. He's been involved in a lot of goals as well. And Courtney Senior, who's still only 22, one of their bright prospects as well.
Top scorer Theo Robinson's got 11 this season so far in the league. For people who haven't seen much of him this season, what can we expect? What kind of striker is he?
Well, there's a bit of a doubt about whether he's going to play because he is spending the season on loan from Southend, and as far as I'm aware, that has not yet been confirmed that he's going to be available. I'm hopeful. If not, it's going to be Luke Norris, who is certainly not a bad alternative at all. Robinson is a very willing runner. He loves getting on the end of the chances that provided for him from out wide and from the centre, and he's a great addition to that team that brings so much balance to the squad overall.
And John McGrill hit 200 games in charge of Colchester just before the league was suspended. It's a hell of an achievement for any manager. But has he got the tactical nous, do you think, to get Colchester over the line and get them promoted? I know they've come close in the last two seasons, just missed out on the playoffs.
Well, on their day, Colchester are easily one of the best sides in this division to watch. I think that I've mentioned before about the balance of the squad. What I love about it is that there's no one area in that team that has vast amounts of ability more than the rest. You've got quality at the back, there's quality in goal, there's quality at fullback, quality on the wings, quality in the centre, quality up top. And on their day, as they've shown this season at times, they can compete with absolutely anybody in the division. There is a bit of worry for me that perhaps there's a chance their fullbacks could get caught out, particularly when they're playing Exeter. And the wide players that Exeter have at their disposal, they could really affect the fullbacks if they're caught too high. But I think John McGreal should feel quite confident about these playoffs, and I reckon they can do well in this.
They did finish 7 points behind their opponents, Exeter, when the league was suspended, of course, not taking into account points per game, that is. But let's move on to their opponents. And the Exeter fan, we've got to send us a clip. Obviously, the fans' point of view, it's probably the best point of view you can get, the people who are there week in, week out. And we've got a clip from Dan, who's sent us what he thinks.
Hi, I'm Dan from the Man in the Lion Mask podcast, and Exeter are back in the playoffs for the third season out of 4 now. Hopefully it goes a bit better this time than it did for our back-to-back trips to Wembley a couple of seasons ago. Although we do have a new man in charge. Matt Taylor was our manager of the under-23 squad for our trips to Wembley in 2017 and 2018, but not part of the first team setup. So hopefully he can push us over the line this time. He's got experience at Wembley as well, winning at Wembley, which is great. He was part of the side that got us promoted from the conference back in 2008. So hopefully he can bring that experience to us and help us in this campaign. Who knows how the break's going to affect us. It's quite a quick turnaround from when the games were announced to when they're being played. So no time for any friendlies or anything like that. We're hoping that the players are match fit and match sharp. But I guess it's the same for all sides in the playoffs. So it's an even playing field. Speaking of playing fields, that's one thing that we will be glad of from the break. The pitch at St James Park was looking pretty terrible actually after Christmas and the New Year, pretty cut up. So any time off that's had is a real bonus for us. In terms of how we will approach the games, I mean we've been set up quite defensively strong throughout the season. At least the first half of the season we were keeping lots of clean sheets, winning games by the odd goal here and there. Which really elevated us to the near the top of the table. Fell off slightly after Christmas, but I see no reason why we wouldn't be set up quite strong at the back again. We've played Colchester twice this season already, 2 draws, so we're expecting a close contest against them, and hopefully that defensive resilience can come back to us and we can squeeze past them to the final at Wembley. And for players to watch, I mean, if you spoke to most City fans, they'd probably tell you Nicky Law, Randall Williams, with good reason as well. A lot of our creativity comes through both of those players, but the player I really wanted to highlight is someone who is well regarded at Exeter, but maybe has flown a bit under the radar for the rest of the league and in the EFL, and that's Archie Collins. He's an academy product, 20 years old, and this is the first season really that he's been playing a consistent number of games, and he's been really great for us in the centre of midfield. He can dictate the tempo of games, find brilliant passes when he needs to, and I mean we've got a history of selling players to bigger clubs, and I think he's probably our next big sale. As for how we're doing the playoffs, I mean we were always meant to be fighting for promotion this season. That was the goal, that was the aim. We started really strongly, and as I say, fell off round about Christmas and found ourselves in the playoff positions when the season was suspended. So we're hopeful that we can get ourselves over the line this time. I think we're good enough, but it's whether or not we can pick up where we left off and hopefully make this third time lucky. But as every City fan will tell you, that it's not necessarily that easy in the playoffs, and anything can happen.
Now, Ed, are you surprised that Exeter are favourites for the playoffs from the bookmakers' point of view?
I am a little, yeah. I think if this had been a regular season and we'd had the end of the season that most were expecting to happen back in August, I was looking at Exeter's form and I'm a little bit concerned by it. I think they've been flirting around the top 3 for a long time. They look like one of the sides in contention for promotion. They've dropped off in recent weeks, which has also, I think, coincided with Johnny Maxted being unavailable because of injury. Having to play Lewis Thomas in there instead their backup keeper instead of there. has really affected them in that area, but they've still done all right. And playoff final, I can see why they'd be put them as maybe the favourites to the playoffs, but at the same time, I think it's unfair to look ahead of the other three sides. This is going to be a really close race.
Yeah, I think someone said this is a sprint, not a marathon, which was a turn of phrase I really liked the other day in terms of it's like nothing we've ever seen. You can't really take any form into account here. And as Dan mentioned in that clip, this is the third season out of 4 that Exeter have been in the playoffs. Obviously, they've not had a successful campaign at the end of any of them. Do you think that'll be playing on any of the players or the manager's mind? Matt Taylor, obviously, this is his first season in charge in these playoffs. He wasn't in charge for the other 2. Do you think that will be in the background of their minds?
I would like to hope it doesn't hinder them. Definitely. You'd look at the past of histories, yeah. You could also consider it the players maybe got the mentality this third time lucky. We talk about what happens before. I think this squad's got a lot of quality to it. Not all the players were involved in those previous playoff campaigns as well, so they've got to draw on that experience themselves. The fans obviously know about it and they'll want this to be the case that they get it right. They've had more experience of the playoffs, those who have featured, than any others in this playoff race at the minute, so maybe that can help them out.
And Taylor was kind of trying to find a solution to their problems. I think there were 4 games without a win heading into the suspension of the season. Do you think he'll go back to a kind of 3-5-2?
I think he will, yeah. I think that's better than well. They've used 4-2-3-1, sometimes it's been 3-5-2. I think when you've got that 3-5-2 at the best, and you've got the likes of Sweeney and Moxie as part of the defence, and then Randall Williams just up that right-hand side all by himself, Nicky Law drifting out to the left, out, Brennan Dickinson out. I think the 3-5-2 has probably been when I've seen Exeter at their best this season.
Why do you think 3 at the back or 5 at the back, whichever way you want to look at it, is such a popular system in League 2 this season?
Difficult to nail it down. I think it's partly to do with the styles that the manager puts in. You take, for instance, Ryan Lowe's Plymouth. They like to play quite a short progressive system for the thirds. His back three allows them to set himself up with that. It's also, I suppose, because you think about the modern day football, how important the wing back has become nowadays, or the full back, that they're expected to cover both sides. If you've naturally got that back 3 in there, you have that 3 men back down in support, and you can let those wide players get forwards and affect the game a lot more.
Indeed, right. I'm going to need your prediction for this tie. It's going to be incredibly close. Obviously, the 2 games earlier in the season, I think they were 0-0 and 2-2, so nothing to separate the 2 teams. Who progresses and why?
I'm going to go with Colchester, because on the balance of things, and I've mentioned this before, I prefer the balance of their squad and the play. I think Exeter, in Randall Williams and Nicky Law, got 2 of the best players in the league. But if you can silence those 2, you really do damage what Exeter are capable of. You've got to silence a lot more players in Colchester to stop them doing what they can do well. And I think this could have the potential to be a high-scoring tie overall if they can get the right attacking play going between both sides. But I just think Colchester, with that back line and the balance they've got from front to back, I'll back them to just about do it.
I think I'm leaning to agree with you there. I just think the fact they've got those players, these are going to be their final games for the club, I do think that'll have a big impact on them. As you mentioned, that defensive duo is pretty solid. So I think we're both in agreement there, which is good.
Absolutely.
Right, let's move on to the second semi-final, the 7:45 kickoff on Thursday. Northampton v Cheltenham. Northampton finishing 7th. Cheltenham just missing out on that top 3 in 4th. And we've got Northampton fan Charles from It's All Cobblers to Me podcast. He's sent in a clip.
Hiya, Charles from the It's All Cobblers to Me podcast here. We're playing Cheltenham in the playoffs on Thursday, and I mean there's been a big break, hasn't there, so who knows what the form's going to give us and bring us, but Keith Curle likes to play quite direct, as you probably know. It's Keith Curle football. There'll be lots of up in the air to our big strikers, whether it's Harry Smith or Verdane Oliver up front, both big guys, both of them know where the net is. It should be a really, really good, entertaining match. We've got actually great news injury-wise. This break has done us some good. Alan McCormack's definitely fit. Jay Oyalinka, who is a youngster that we got on loan from Arsenal, probably back in sort of January, he played 1 or 2 games or made 1 or 2 appearances before getting injured and then has been out for the rest of the season. He's back fit, which is good news. Harry Smith's also back fit after being out for quite a long time. It's looking like we've got a clean bill of health. The only player that's going to definitely be missing is Sam Hoskins. He was red carded in his last game for the Cobblers, a second yellow, I think, and or at the very least it's only a 1-match suspension, so he'll sit out the first leg against Cheltenham, but he'll be back for the second leg. Curl likes to play with wing backs. Usually Sam Hoskins would be there and Nicky Adams on the other side, but obviously with Hoskins out, that looks like that's a place to be filled. You might expect to see Paul Anderson slot in there. Who knows? It's been such a long time without football. I've got no idea what's actually going to happen on Thursday. Who knows? We could be the best team in the world all of a sudden after 3 months break, or we could be the worst. All I know is that there's huge momentum and huge support for the club at the moment. The Cobbler in the Crowd initiative has gone really well. Shout out to Cheltenham, who did it first before us, but we've then got involved. We've got big name people in our stadium on Thursday. I don't know who Cheltenham got. Shaquille O'Neal, to name one. Chantel Cameron, boxing champion. Loads of people. And of course, the guys, us from the podcast, will be there as well. Yeah, it's going to be a cracking game, hopefully. We're doing a playoff preview the hour before on Zoom, so if you're a Cobblers fan, then go to our website, cobblerstome.com. You'll find all the details there. And apart from that, come on, Cobblers!
Thanks for that, Charles. I certainly wouldn't want to be the cardboard cutout sat behind Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, that's the third time I've tried to sell that joke, and I don't think it was worth the wait, was it, Ed?
Probably not.
Right, the headline news here is probably that Sam Hoskins is going to miss the first game due to suspension. Top scorer with 10, of course, for Northampton. But it seems to me that Northampton are a team this season that have shared their goals about a bit. Do you think that makes them a bit more dangerous?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Hoskins has been excellent, as has Nicky Adams on the other side, who I think has particularly been even more influential. They do have Mark Marshall who can come out in that position. I believe he's still available to play. And then I think it's the spine of that team that I love the most about it. You've got Verdane Oliver up top, who on his day is one of the best target men in the division, easily. So difficult to handle. Callum Morton's been sensational since coming from West Bromwich Albion, got himself involved in the goal so far. In the centre of midfield, you've got Ryan Watson and Chris Lyons, who can overpower most teams with the physical presence they have to provide. Paul Allen, advanced role, he could possibly go out on the wing to replace Hoskins as well. Alan McCormack's back fit, which is great. And any Northampton fan will tell you that Alan McCormack is like a wizard on the ball. He's just miles technically better than anyone else they've seen in the league. And then the spine of that back line as well. This is a really good team.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think they've done well to get in the playoffs as well. Keith Curle is yet to get a promotion on his CV despite all of his experience. His last failure was that incredible 3-3, 6-5 playoff game against Exeter while he was at Carlisle. One of the best playoff games I've ever seen, especially over 2 legs. Do you think it's fair that he might come in for some criticism if he doesn't get Northampton promoted this season?
I don't know about getting criticism of promotion. I think the criticism with Keith Curle this season was he has a distinct style. We all know that. And I think the issue was it gets predictable. There was a point around the turn of the year where Northampton just looked unstoppable. No one could handle them. And then you came to the second round of games and teams started playing them again and they'd sussed out exactly what they were going to do and they were able to predict it and deal with it. And whilst it can work on its day, if you know what to expect and you set yourself up, Keith Curle doesn't really tend to have that much of a second option, and that can hold them back.
I think I agree with you there as well. There have been 2 close games between this pair this season. I think it was 2-1 to Cheltenham and 1-1 at Sixfield. So it's going to be another close playoff semi-final. What about Northampton's style? Is it the directness that could cause Cheltenham problems?
We know what Cheltenham have got in terms of quality, but I'd honestly say, I think if you're putting a team out there with a style that could counter that the most, you'd probably go with Northampton Town. I think I've talked about Verdane Oliver, and if he can hassle that back line, he can really affect things. If Lyons and Watson can overpower the likes of Jake Dole-Hayes and Ryan Broom in midfield to Cheltenham, that could really work to their advantage. And then that back 3, who at one point looked completely unbeatable, with Cornell in goal, Good at the back, Charlie, Jordan Turnbull in there as well, and Scott Wharton. And it is a side that, whilst I think a lot of people will look at Cheltenham's form and their statistics and might think this is a one-sided affair, I would not rule Northampton out that easily.
It's going to be another close game. Another question I had for you was on Scott Pollock at Northampton. Obviously, he's a big YouTube star, given his journey, starting from Northampton people who haven't been keeping up to date with him, how's he getting on? Should we see him feature here?
Yeah, Scott's been a bit part player. He's normally been one brought from the bench, someone similar to Matty Warburton, who came from Stockport after a really good season for them in the National League North. He's still a young lad. He'll go into the team. He's got a really experienced midfield ahead of him, though, to get into. So I'll give him a bit of time. I think we'll start to see more of him in the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, be good to keep an eye on his progress. Now from Northampton to Cheltenham, and Cheltenham fan Owen, I think he was walking his dog when he sent this clip in, but it didn't stop him giving some great opinions. Let's hear from him.
So the impact on the break which it's had on us, I think quite a big impact really. I think if the season was to play out, I think we would have fancied our chance of automatic promotion really. We had an alright run in, to be fair. We had a couple of the big teams, Exeter still to play, and Swindon, both at home. One at home, sorry, Swindon away, which we seem to beat all the time. So yeah, I think it's had a bit of an impact, but still we're very fortunate to be in the playoffs. We find ourselves fortunate anyway to be able to play out the season. I would say that we're in a good place. Duff's probably one of the better managers in the league. It's kind of good that he isn't spoken about as much, or as he probably should be, because he's a great manager. He's been a revelation really. I mean, you compare the top three managers in the league. Okay, Artel's done brilliant with the finance he's got, but you've got Wellens, he's got a financial backing, same as Ryan Lowe. So their feats are kind of tampered with that. We took stock of what he had last season. He changed to a 3-5-2. We've turned pretty bang average players into top League 2 players, and that's ultimately why we are where we are. Our 3-5-2 formation is fast paced, it's high intense, pressing, like to play, keep the ball on the floor. And we've got a great defensive record, and that's only going to stand us in good stead, I think, for the playoffs. A couple of players to look out for. It's hard to pick them, but I think if I was to pick two, I'd say Chris Hussey down the left, because he's just such a threat, bombing up and down. His quality of crosses leads him to one of the most assists in the league, and again, probably a player who's not spoke about enough, because he probably is the best left back in the league. You'll find many, you wouldn't find many who are better than him. And also Alfie May, he's been a revelation since we got into since January. Shame we couldn't see how well he played out, because he was just lacking that killer instinct which we needed, and sometimes we couldn't rely on when we didn't have the players. Strikers who were unfit, Ruben Reid and Varney getting injuries, picking up the season, so he's just been the perfect type of player, high intense, works his socks off, and it's got that killer finish. Finally, our chance of promotion. I mean, I've not experienced great promotion playoff campaigns with Cheltenham, but I don't see there's any reason why we can't go up through this. We'll have as good a chance as any of the others, and if not better. I think, like we said, probably would have got top three if we carried on. We've got the belief. We know what the other teams are going to be about. There's not going to be any surprises apart from injuries or suspensions. So I think it's in our hands. We could easily do it, and there's no reason why we can't. We've got the belief. As long as we've got the belief and we're sharp, which, you know, you've got to take that into account. Every team's not going to be sharp. So yeah, no reason why we can't do it.
So Ed, do you think Cheltenham will be the team in the playoffs that were most disappointed that the season was curtailed, given they were the closest to the top three? And do you think they would have finished in the top three?
Oh, that's a debate. That depends what team you support when you ask that question. Cheltenham have been sensational. I did not think they'd be this far at the table at the start of the season. I thought they had a decent side. Michael Duff was building something that maybe was a season away from doing what they're doing now. But they've been fantastic. There is the argument about whether maybe if the season had been able to play out, but it's just going to remain what if. That's all we can do. I think most people knew League Two was never going to be able to carry on, and I'm glad the clubs quickly came to a decision to curtail it, and especially a mention as well to clubs like Port Vale and Bradford, who were in a position where they could have potentially made the playoffs and decided to put the benefit to the league ahead of themselves and end the season early.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you there. And I know that Michael Duff was a good centre-back in his time, but their defensive record is absolutely nuts. 27 goals conceded, the least in the Football League. I think only Liverpool have conceded more in the whole of England, and that's playing a lot less games. What on earth is it that makes them so solid?
It's just the setup they have. It's that they use a back three. It's a fantastic back three. Charlie Ragland's one of the best defenders in the league. You've got Ben Tozer alongside him, and then you've got Jacob Greaves, who's on loan from Hull, and he's keeping Will Boyle out of the side at the moment, so he's been fantastic. And then you've got Chris Hussey and Sean Long, who are an excellent pair of wing-backs. I'm a big fan of Chris Hussey in particular, having been formerly at my club, Burton Albion as well. I know exactly what he's about. And then the midfield
His
is
delivery.
workhorse. Well, yeah, deliveries are fantastic. It's the workhorse in the whole team. The whole team commits to both phases, which is what works so well. Even from the front, you have the defence stretching off in Alfie May and Luke Barney. And then that midfield's fantastic as well.
Yeah, as you mentioned there, they are, as we mentioned before as well, they are another side who like to share the goals around a bit. But as you said, Alfie May, since he came in, I think he's got 6 in 12. How much of an impact will he have in deciding this tie?
Oh, he could have a massive impact. Alfie May, if anyone remembers what he was like at Doncaster, they'll know that League Two is a level he's one of the best at, easily. And he's come in, he provides that option in behind that Cheltenham can utilise with the players they have to throw the ball to him. And he's a great finisher. And you know what? Maybe if this comes down to a single goal, it will probably be Alfie May that gets it.
They are certainly conventionally prettier on the eye than Northampton to watch. They both play variations of a 3-5-2 system. So how do you see them matching up? How they have to keep the ball on the deck, I presume?
Well, what I would say is, yeah, you can talk about aesthetically pretty styles, but you play what suits you best. Northampton have got the players to play a physical, direct style. Use it. There's no rule saying you've got to play a certain way to go up in football. That's not the case. You utilise what you've got around you. If you play some great football, great, you get some attraction. But ultimately, what matters is the results you get. So that's the interesting tactical battle that comes with this. And like I've said before, I think Northampton are one of the ideal sides to stop Cheltenham playing if they can. Their style is best suited to that, particularly if they can overrun that field.
So finally, your predictions for this two-legged tie. Obviously, it's going to be a very close game, but who do you think progresses and why?
I find this one harder to call than the other one. I've mentioned before about Northampton's style and how it could really counteract Cheltenham as well. But for Northampton, I look at 3 particular players. Charlie Good at the back, Nicky Adams out the wing, and Verdane Oliver up top. If those 3 are on it, Northampton have got a chance. If those 3 are not on it, Cheltenham win this very easily. I'm going to go with Cheltenham just because I feel like that defence has the record it does. I know form is out the window at this point and I'm not paying too much attention to the form, but on the basis of the quality of the squad and the previous games against them, I just think they're going to prevail, but it's going to be a very close contest, I think.
I think I agree with you. Again, I just can't see past that Cheltenham defence, especially when you consider looking at the entire season rather than the last kind of 5 or 10 games they've played has been absolutely sensational. So we're predicting a Colchester-Cheltenham final, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that'd be a great game.
That would be a great game. And if you had to pick one of them, we won't do a full preview now, but if you had to pick the winners of the League Two playoffs this year, who would you pick?
I'm going with Cheltenham.
Oh, amazingly,
Yeah.
that's the team I've got written down as well. I think Michael Duff has done an amazing job. I think the system works. I think you're right. Chris Hussey's set pieces are going to be key. And I think they've just got, as you say, Alfie May, I think they've got exactly what it takes to get promoted. So Cheltenham are my team to get promoted. And same with you, Ed.
Yep, indeed. This is going to be a very good set of games, though, and I can't wait.
I'm very excited for Thursday and Monday night. Make sure you tune in. Thank you very much, Ed, for joining me. You've been absolutely fantastic. Your insight is amazing. Make sure you check out the D3D4 podcast because their knowledge of the game at that level is pretty much unrivaled. I love listening to it. Make sure you check it out if you support one of those teams in the division. But thanks very much, Ed, for joining me.
My pleasure.
So both me and Ed think that Michael Duff's Cheltenham Town will taste promotion at Wembley. Make sure you watch back-to-back playoff semi-finals on Thursday and Monday night. But that is it for another video, guys. I do hope you've enjoyed this different style of preview I've put together today. If you did, please hit a like and subscribe below. But for now, that's it. I'll see you on the next one.